Might be using Weidmuller. Weidmuller do HMIs? I didn't know that. I've never really used any of the Weidmuller stuff, other than the power supplies. They're pretty good. What else we use with Weidmuller? Used to use the terminals at my old spot. Will you do star? Not sure what you're asking there, Jonathan. A little bit, but wasn't really my responsibility. Fair enough, mate. When will... Oh, sorry, I missed that, mate. When will you switch gear class? Switch the gear class? When will you do the switch? Oh, do switch gear class. Sorry, right, I'm with you. The thing is, I haven't really got much to show. I feel like you need to have physical... I need to have some parts, but I haven't really got any, like, MCCBs, ACBs, any of that sort of thing. Can maybe do some control stuff on it, maybe. Yeah, I only found their HMI and PLCs. Let me know how you get on with them, mate. Yeah, I'll be interested to know. What's the job title for this kind of stuff? HMI programmer, PLC programmer. I guess most guys who do HMIs do the PLC as well. Right, so I've sorted that out. So what I've got going on, just so you're aware, just to give you a bit of background. I've got Mitsubishi GX Works 3. I've got them both running in simulation mode, basically. They'll talk to each other. Mitsubishi's pretty good at having both softwares talk to each other, so I don't need any hardware to do this. I'm a software designer. What's your programming choice? Programming language of choice as an EE? C, C++, assembly. No, mate, I don't do any programming like that. I know a little bit of C and a little bit of C++, but it's mostly ladder logic like you're seeing on the screen now, function block diagram, or structured text. They're kind of industrial languages. Is there somebody why can help me to scale analog input on CX Programmer? I think that's Omron, isn't it? CX Programmer. I'm not an Omron expert in any way, shape or form, mate. Tier Portal is better. I mean, that's preference, isn't it? That's what you kind of think. I personally prefer this, but Tier Portal's fine. Are you an electrician previously? No. I used to be a test engineer. Before I went into design, I was a test engineer. Right, so let me just go back to this. So, HMI. Oh, I need to come out of simulation mode. Close that down. Put it into write mode. Let's give them better names. Let's make this one a different color. Style. Let's make this yellow. Make this one yellow. They both look the same. Why is that? That's because that one should be that and that one should be that. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up a push button on the HMI. So you would physically press the screen and it'd act like a button. So what this is saying is key touch off is basically when the button's not pressed, what does it look like? And then when the button is pressed, what does it look like? And I'll just double check. That's red. So we've got a blue button and a yellow button. So I'll program them. I was an electrician and got into controls for a friend's company. Nice, Shane. Yeah, and I wasn't an electrician. I did 2 years at college doing domestic electrical, but I never really liked it. So I moved into engineering. Matthew, thank you for the follow, mate. Is this field for machines, etc.? How about robotics? Yeah, PLCs and that sort of thing. Yeah, machines, robotics, that sort of thing, yeah. Mojo, thank you for the follow. Yeah, we do a lot of safety control systems and guarding for pure remedials. Nice, mate. That's quite different. I work in power generation. So I've got a bit of a weird... I'm in a bit of a strange field. You probably don't come across power generation sort of designers that often. Do you do any water treatment plants? We do, mate. Yeah. There's a lot of water treatment plants with backup generators on them. Right, let's call this one yellow button. Yellow PB. We'll make that. So when you're working with GT Designer, the only way you can use variables rather than physical I/O, or what's the word? Yeah, physical I/O, I guess. designations like X's, D's, M's, that sort of thing. You have to make them global variables, just so you know. Danny Sav, thank you for sharing the live, mate. Appreciate that. Welcome back, mate. What's power generation? Isn't simple language. Power generation, as in I work with diesel generators, hydro turbines, wind turbines, solar inverters, that sort of thing. Power generation equipment, and we need to automate the switchgear and the power supplies themselves. Do you do much work with Trend? I don't, mate. No, that's a BMS type thing, which I don't really get involved with. Gashi90, thank you for the follow, mate. Really appreciate it. What program is this? I'm used to Siemens Tier Portal. This is Mitsubishi GX Works 3 and GT Designer. So this is for the Mitsubishi platform of PLCs and HMIs. Let's call this one, it was a red lamp, I think. Let's make that global. I'm just going to go through some basic HMI stuff, really. For anyone who's not worked with it, or anyone who's wanting to get into it, just to give you a rough idea of what it's like. Right, so I've set up them to just double check I don't need any local variables. I need to label my global variables with, I need to give them, assign them a device. Mitsubishi call physical I/O and physical memory. Physical memory, that's not quite the right word. They call them devices anyway. So for this one, I'll give it X1. And for this one, I'll give it M1. And basically, I've give my yellow push button lamp, yellow push button, the device of X1. Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like I'm not making a lot of sense. Ask any questions at any point if I'm not making any sense. The red lamp, that's been given the device of M1, which is just a memory bit. Thank you to everyone who's sharing, liking, reposting. I appreciate all of that. Thank you very much. Chloe, thank you for the gifts. Really appreciate it.
Control, you must
Joe, welcome to the stream, mate. Thank you for the follow. Right, okay. So I've set them up in... So this is the PLC end. This is what I've set up a simulated Mitsubishi IQF PLC, which you will have seen on loads of my videos. It's the ones I've got on the test rigs. I've just set them up, just a quick 2 inputs, 2 outputs, just to show you on the HMI, and these two are what we're going to be controlling. So there's X1, there's M1, there's X0, there's M0, and I put my logo in just to show you it doesn't have to be a lamp. You can kind of put in whatever you want. So let's get these going in simulation mode then. Start the simulation on the PLC. It's not happy because I haven't compiled and all that stuff. I might have an error. And there's a compile. We'll do a rebuild while we're here. That should be happy now. There we go. That looks good to me. Right, okay, the PLC is now in simulation mode. Now I just need to do the same for the HMI. Do you need to be an electrician to get into controls? You don't, mate. You don't have to. It definitely helps. I would say it definitely... but I would say you'd want to be more like a technician rather than an electrician. So if you're an electrician wanting to get into this role, I would say try and move into like a maintenance role in a factory or something like that. You'll be exposed more to the equipment that you'll deal with. Mitzi project I'm working on at the moment is a retrofit control system to automate a 3-axis shot blaster. That sounds interesting, mate. That sounds real interesting. Tier Portal, nice, my favourite. With factory I/O, you can do a lot of things very cool. I don't have factory I/O. I looked into it and it's mad expensive. I wish I did because it looks really good. For what kind of PLC is this? It'll be for a Mitsubishi IQF. That's the PLC that I'm simulating at the moment. So we've got 2 buttons and we've got a lamp and a logo. I press the button on that one. I don't know if you can hear the beep, but there is a beep, and it changes the image. I press the button on this one and it lights up a lamp. And there's nothing clever about this whatsoever. That's the logic for it. I'm just literally, I've got an input from a button and I'm giving an output to the lamp, or the logo rather, the image. And then I've got another button, the yellow push button, which is just driving the red lamp. Nothing clever about this at all. This is all just digital stuff. There's no analogs involved or anything. You can hear the beep. Oh, okay. Oh, the engineer, you started as a panel wirer. Nice. What sort of panels did you wire? Right, okay, so welcome to everyone who's just joined, by the way. We're just doing a little bit of HMI programming, just showing you some basic stuff if you've not worked with them before, just to give you a bit of an idea. The HMI screen looks absolutely rubbish, but I've spent no time on it. Let me just close down the simulation. I'll show you roughly, I'd spent about 5 minutes putting this together, how I go about designing HMI. So what I always like to do, and if certain HMI softwares you can't do it in, but it's such a powerful thing, is to have a background screen. So this time up here and this home button, they're not part of the screen that I'm looking at. So I've got what's called a background screen. Don't know if you guys can see that. Wait a second. This is the one I want to pull across and slide it all over. So over on the left, I've got some options here for different screens and that sort of thing. One's called the home screen. That's the one that you're looking at. That's this screen. And one's called the background screen. And the background screen is what's common to every single page. And the reason you do that is so you can get consistent navigation. So your navigation buttons aren't changing all over the place and that sort of thing. So on this one, all I've got at the moment is I've got the time and I've got a home button. I haven't got any more screens. I can add another screen, to be fair. So let's just copy that button across. Open up the settings for it. Probably, in fact, before I do that, I should probably create another screen. Ellie Atkinson, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. I can copy and paste this screen. So the home screen, I'll just make that number 2. Call it, I don't know, TikTok. Call it whatever you want. Doesn't matter about the name. So now TikTok has, let's put the buttons for this one on the bottom. And just so you can see that it's different. I'd normally label it, I'd give it a name, like there'd be a title up at the top. But like I say, I spent about 5 minutes on this. What does HMI stand for? It stands for Human Machine Interface. And what that basically means is you as a human need to interface to the machine. So change timers, toggle switches, press push buttons, read data from it. So this is the interface between you and the machine. And it's basically like an iPad. You know, it's an industrial iPad. But these came around long before iPads were around. And it's just a bunch of screens to give you the data visually. You can, you know, press push buttons and give control to the machine. Casa, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. It is Mitsubishi, yes, mate. So you wired car wash panels, water reclamation machines, then BMS, then senior engineer, now head of technical. Nice, mate. That's some good progression. Yeah, you should be real proud of that. Panel wiring's a really interesting. It's because it's like I don't find it difficult. Like I can panel wire, but there's definitely an art to being a good panel wirer. So when I was a test engineer, there would be certain panels that come into the test area from certain wiremen, and you'd just put your head in your hands. You're like, oh, fuck's sake, here we go. And there would be certain panels that come in, and you'd be really happy because the wireman could do the panel neat. He never had any wiring mistakes. He took pride in his work, and they were the panels that you really wanted to get when you were in test. Can a push button have a memory bit? It can, mate. Yeah. So the memory bit that I'm... So in the logic that's driving them lamps is from the push button. Those two contacts there, them two normally open contacts, are driven by those push buttons. So you're simulating what gets displayed on the touchscreen of a machine. Yeah, yeah, I'm basically making the pages of what a machine would display and that sort of thing. Obviously, it looks rubbish. I've spent absolutely no time on it. But yeah, as we go through, I'll probably put some analog readouts on, and you'll be able to see a little bit better how you can display a counter and stuff like that. Because if you think about it, if you look at a PLC, you have absolutely no knowledge of what's going on in there. You know, if it's counting something, you don't know where it's up to in its count, because you have no way of looking just from the PLC alone. You need like a display to go with it. Where you based, bud? Accent doesn't sound too... I'm from North Yorkshire, but I've got a weird accent because I was born in London. So when I was quite small, I came up here, and now I've got a weird accent that's not North Yorkshire and isn't Southern either. So thank you to everyone who's joining the live, by the way. Thank you to everyone who's liking, everyone who's sharing. If you just hold in your screen, it'll come up with a little box. There'll be a little yellow circle that says repost. I'd really appreciate it if you could do that for me. Drea, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. So let's go back to this. So yeah, I've created a second screen. Again, I'm not really going to make it very pretty. I'm just going to show you so that you can tell this screen's different from the home screen, because the home screen, the outputs were on the right and the inputs were on the left. And on the TikTok screen, the inputs are on the bottom and the outputs are on the top. So that's how you'll know. I could probably put some text in, but let's just go with this for now. So let's go back to this. I was going to show you the background page. That was the point of what I was doing. So we added this button. We're going to change that. So it was pointing at home. So whenever you press that push button, it displayed the home screen. We want this button to display what we're calling the TikTok screen. So let's do that, and we'll change the text on it to say TikTok. You can tell I'm really thinking hard about what to call these things. Right, okay, so if I now put that back into simulation mode. Wet Show, thank you for the follow, mate. Really appreciate that. Okay, and pull it over here. So now you can see I've got a home screen and I've got a TikTok screen, and you can see I can change what is being displayed with those buttons at the bottom. This down here, so everything below this line is what I would consider the navigation buttons. They're what's going to take you to all the different pages, and in my opinion, you want this to be common throughout every screen. You never want these buttons to move places, change where they are, change what they do. You want them to always be common, because it can get... You can end up going... You can make a HMI like a maze, where you're pressing buttons to get to the next screen, and you need to press another 3 buttons to get to another screen. It can get really complicated and confusing. So I like to just put the navigation buttons on the bottom. They never change. They're always the same. And up at the top, you know, I've got the time and date up there, but you can put whatever you want. But that's always... anything above that line... The engineer, thank you, mate. I really appreciate it, brother. You can put the time and date above that. November, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You can put above that line whatever you want, and it's always going to be common. Do you know Verilog? I don't, mate, no. I think that's for FPGAs, is that right? What is the software, and simming on a PLC or in a microcontroller? No, this is just pure simulation, software simulation. I have no hardware here. The engineer, thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. That's crazy. Thank you so much, buddy. Yeah, I've achieved my live goal as well that I didn't even know I had. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. Oh, I did set the boxing gloves. Yeah, I remember now. Is something like a programming language? The programming language would be ladder logic. That's what I'm using at the minute. There isn't really any. Aracel, thank you so much. Araceli, is that right? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The programming language is ladder logic, so which is an industrial programming language. It's not like C or C++ or anything like that. It's part of the IEC. Oh, now I'm forgetting the number. Basically there's an IEC standard with 5 industrial programming languages for PLCs. This is one of them. Right, so yeah, the background screen, that's what I was going back to. The background screen is common to every screen that you create. It never changes. You can add stuff to the background screen, but it'll affect every screen. And I normally draw a line. Anything above the line goes on the background screen. Anything below the bottom line goes on the background screen. Name of the software. So the HMI software is Melsoft GT Designer 3, which is the Mitsubishi HMI software. And the PLC programming software is Mitsubishi GX Works 3. And I've got them both in simulation mode, and Mitsubishi, when they're both in simulation mode, will talk to each other through software. So it's just like having a physical HMI and a physical PLC next to each other, hooked up with an Ethernet cable. Verilog is a hardware description language used to describe digital electronic systems. Okay, mate. Yeah, this is a little bit different. Ladder is fun, but my problem is all the professional techniques. The thing is with all that is that none of them are actually necessary. You can speak to certain people that will tell you you have to make, handlers, managers, like alarm managers, input-output handlers and all this, and they put these big fancy words in, but you don't actually need that. That might be more professional to do that, and it might be easier for other programmers that are used to building applications to do, but it's not necessary at all, mate. You do PLC programming how you want. You do need to try and write your PLC programs in a way that others can modify them, others can read them. You do need to be mindful of that, put plenty of comments and stuff, make your variable names readable and make sense. But you don't have to go too crazy with it. I'm studying it at University Computer Science. Nice, Matt. Nice. Do you prefer ladder logic or structured text? My personal preference is ladder logic. However, I use both and function block diagram wherever they're needed. So if I was to do any calculations and that sort of thing, I wouldn't use ladder. Ladder's pretty terrible for doing math and calculations and that sort of thing. Electronic or electrical engineering, what do you recommend? Well, I did both. I did electrical and electronic engineering. That was the title of my course. I guess it depends on what you want to do going in as a career. Yeah, thank you everyone so much for the gifts. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for turning up tonight. This was a bit of a random one. I wasn't going to live stream again till the weekend, but I just thought I'd come on and show some HMI stuff. Are there any courses online you can recommend? I always recommend looking up Paul Lin at PLC Dojo. He has a good PLC course. Do you use Mitzi on the daily? Have you seen any of the GOT 3000 yet? I don't use Mitsubishi HMIs barely ever, mate, to be fair. I only use them for TikTok because I've got one. I normally use Bayer. Bayer HMIs are the ones that I use at work, which I think are far superior, to be fair. So, yeah, there's my two screens. You notice that the buttons at the bottom never change. They never switch places. They never move a pixel. They're always constant because they're on the background screen. They're not put per screen. They're a common screen for every screen, if that makes sense. Let's put some analogs in. I feel like that's... Let's do a counter. Let's just do a counter up. I need to come out of simulation mode and I need to go into write mode. Structured text is way better. It's personal preference, mate. If you're used to, C, C++, C#, Python, all them, you probably will like structured text more. If you're an electrical engineer that, wires relay contacts and that sort of thing, you're going to like ladder logic better. As a senior student who's taking PLC in uni and as an EE this semester and now in timers, advice please. Well, what are you having trouble with, mate? And we'll try and help. Gitchy or Gitchul, thank you for the follow, really appreciate that. Thank you to everyone who's joining, liking, sharing, everything like that. Thank you for the gifts as well, the engineer, that was massive, thank you, mate. And Araceli as well, appreciate that. So, right, I'm back in write mode. Trying not to get bogged down too much with the comments. Evening, David, how are you, mate? Welcome back. So let's do... What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna... On the HMI, I've got a couple of push buttons. I'll make one of them a counter. So every time I tap it, a count will start to increment, and we can display that on the HMI. You are getting addicted to this, Daz. I know, mate. I know I said I wasn't going to come on until the weekend, but I enjoy it. What can I say? I enjoy it. And people keep showing up, so everyone else must enjoy it as well. Okay, so let's make that HMI button. Welcome back as well, Snarky Man, by the way. Thanks for coming again. Are there any HMIs that are capable of displaying 3D controls? WinCC only does 2D. When you say 3D, what do you mean? Just like you're able to spin something or something like that? Not that I know of. I don't know of any. The main HMIs that I use are Schneider HMI STs and Bayer X2 Pros. I have got a job coming up with an X3 Pro, which I'm quite looking forward to doing because they've just come out. Wanting to know how, what the improvements are. Want to get professional ASAP and also want to do projects, but don't know how to start. Best thing to do, mate, is try and get yourself some sort of apprenticeship or internship at a company. Try and get some experience under your belt. Coming straight from uni, you're probably going to struggle with having that experience side, I would say. Siemens. No, this is Mitsubishi, mate. I don't use Siemens HMIs at all, no. I do want to, though. I'd like to get into the Siemens stuff more. I've only really just picked up Siemens again after like 10 years with buying one. But even then, I haven't put in the time that I thought I was going to get. I just haven't had time to do it. Okay, so to go back to this, I've added a counter. I've put my push button on it. If it was a physical push button, you might want to set this as a rising edge input. I don't need to do that. I won't bother because on the HMI it is already rising edge. And we need to give it a memory address to save this counter. So every time I press this button, it's going to want to count up, but you need to put that value somewhere. You need a little container or a little box to save that count value to and to use on the HMI to read from. I have a test tomorrow about everything related to computer system. Wish me luck. Good luck summarising books. I hope you do well on your test, mate. Got a product idea you want to sell? I'm a software engineer. Wouldn't mind a side hustle. I don't, mate. No, I don't. If I did, I'll probably try and do it myself. Best of luck with your venture there. Don't bother. I had a nightmare recently with a Siemens KTP 400. Is that the ones that go with the logos? Or is that like a proper HMI? I'm not entirely sure of the numbering scheme for Siemens. Is it possible to learn PLC by myself without any PLC classes, just YouTube classes for guidance? I think so, mate. I do think you're going to need some software. I'd recommend Codesys. It's free, and that's Codesys. I think that's how you spell it. It's free. You can write programs. You can simulate. Once you've got the basics nailed down, you've got a bit of a foundation, you think you know what you're doing, maybe look to getting some second-hand hardware or something cheap. We may need a logic function to calculate if weekend can stream, if workday limit stream. You might be right, mate. I just felt like, I don't know. The weekend streams went really well, I thought. I thought I'd see what... it is Monday today, and it's been a long day. Just see what it'd be like midweek. Or at the beginning of the week, even. Proper HMI. Oh, okay, mate. Yeah, I've never used them. But I think that's programmed in... to your portal as well, if I'm right. So you do the PLC side and the HMI side all in the same software, which I quite like the idea of. That's how I started off with a Schneider M221. The Schneider M221s are really good. I'm a big fan of a Schneider M221. They're very cheap and they're quite capable. The only downside, I guess, is they can only be programmed in ladder logic or instruction list. Let's call this counterval. Let's get this going again. So I'm giving it an input, which is from my push button on my HMI. It is going to then store that to a register, essentially. And I'm going to then use that register to display a number on the HMI. Before I get to that, I need to give that register a device, because in Mitsubishi, the HMI software doesn't like variables. It wants to see devices. So I'm giving it D0, which is like a %MW in Schneider or something, if you're familiar with that. It's just a 16-bit memory register. Do you know about JSON and MQTT? I don't, mate. No, I don't. I know MQTT is becoming quite a big thing. A lot of database. Is it database in MQTT? I could be wrong. I basically I don't know. Yeah, to be fair, I don't really get involved like that. Control logics all day long. I'll be honest, I've not really used any Alan Bradley Rockwell stuff enough to be able to say you're wrong. So yeah, if you think that, mate, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, true with a Schneider, but ladder is the GOAT. I agree. Depending on use, obviously, but yeah, I've done some pretty powerful stuff with the M221. I feel like I've really took it to its limits. In fact, I know I have, because when you look at the memory storage and stuff, it's like, you know, there's not a lot left. I'll have to move up to a M241 if I was to do a similar project like that again. I think I was asked in a meeting today. Yeah, I'm aware of them. I don't know much about JSON and MQTT. They all seem like, I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff in Node-RED where they use stuff like that, which I don't know a lot about either. That seems like a Raspberry Pi type thing to me, but apparently it's becoming an industrial thing. Yeah, I don't know enough about it, I'll be honest, mate. I'm just waffling about that. Right, so let's get a analog readout. I just need to find it. Numerical display, there we go. Let's chuck that in there, and let's change the colors so everyone can see it. Let's make it black. Do we want any sort of shape with it? Let's make it white again then. We've got a black background. That looks good to me. Again, this is messy. I spent absolutely no time on this. I would never make an awful screen look like, you know, a screen look this awful, but it's just to show you really what HMI is all about, really. So there's my analog readout. I'm going to need to tie that to my counter now. So I give it the device D0, which I believe is what I gave it in the PLC. Let's just go back and double check. Counter val, global variable D0. That should work then. I haven't got a reset, so we might want to put a reset in. Let's put that on our yellow PB. So I can keep clicking my, let's just remind myself, I can keep clicking my blue button to count up. It'll just keep counting. But if you don't have a reset, you can never get back to 0. You can never restart that count. So that I'll put it on the yellow button, and that should be good. PV, I don't need any. That's basically, you know, at what level do you want to say you've reached the count? I don't need that. I would never actually use that. I would always use a comparison. So if I wanted to do something else based on this count, I would use a comparator to say, if the CV, the count value, is equal to or greater than 5, then do XYZ, rather than set the PV to 5, because that can kind of limit you. And then you could also say, well, if it's greater than 15 but less than 20, do XYZ. It's a lot more flexible if you use comparisons on the count value rather than use the PV, in my opinion. I think that's good. Let's try run it, I guess. Let's try run it. Put the PLC into simulation mode first. That's writing away. That seems happy. Yes, it's happy. We're in simulation mode. On the HMI, let's go into simulation mode. So now both softwares are talking to each other as if I've got a physical PLC and a physical HMI hooked up. Ladder. Yes, mate, it is ladder. John, thank you for the follow, mate. Really appreciate it. I feel like I have missed a few comments here. Node-RED is great with Siemens logo. I've not used it. I guess I need to get my head into it, but it's Node-RED in my head was something that was made for Raspberry Pis, so in my mind it's not even like an industrial thing, but that's just my closed-mindedness about that sort of thing. Now this is the life for me. I appreciate that, R squared. Thank you, mate. Is ladder mostly used in industry or FBD? I think it depends on the type of industry. In general, I would say ladder is the most popular, but I know FBD is used a lot in process control. PID loop, please. It's probably a bit deep to go into PID loops for the amount of time that I've got left, to be honest, mate. Flowfuse is also great. Set up an AI bot to pick up trip alert emails and auto book calls with customers and engineers. That does sound interesting. That sounds cool. Ralph, thank you for the follow, mate. Really appreciate that. What HMI software are you using? This is GT Designer by Mitsubishi. What are the skills required to get an internship? Like, what will a company test me on? I guess it depends on the company. There's no right or wrong answer to that. As long as you get, you show willingness to learn, willingness to work, you're willing to put in the graft, I feel like you could do well. Be confident. What is the background robot noise? What the hell is he saying? That is my follow noise, and it's a clip of Yoda saying you must learn control, which I thought was apt. Although, yeah, I'm not sure if I like it or not, I'll be honest. I might change it yet. Node-RED is a great tool and is being used in industries. I'm aware, yeah, I do know it's becoming a thing. I just haven't really got into it, I guess. How do you tune a loop? It's a good question. A lot of PLCs now have auto-tune, so you don't have to do much of the tuning yourself. But in general, start with your gains low, start with everything real low, and slowly increase it. Don't put your gains too high, else you might be in for a shock. Try and do it, well, definitely do it in a safe environment, so you haven't got, in my case, in the power generation, you might do it on, what shall we say, on a generator synchronizing. The last thing you want to be doing is putting your gains so high that it thinks it's synchronized and it crash parallels with the mains or something. It says you're an electrical engineer for the LV switchgear industry. I've never seen them use PLCs. LV switchgear is just part of my job. Power generation controls is the other part, which do use PLCs. Yeah. Do you have a tool? No. That you would do the PLC. You would do the PID tuning within the PLC. What do you mean by tool? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. Let me get back to this anyway while I wait for your question. Edem Truth, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate that. JWL, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate that, mate. Hopefully I haven't missed anyone else. Seamus O'Leary, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. And that's it. Holiday season. Not holiday season. Geek. I don't know what his name is. Cube, I'm going to call you. Thank you for the follow. Let me get back to this so we're not just sat here on this one screen. Where did I get to? Did I compile the HMI? Probably not, because it didn't look like that was there. Make sure... Oh, that was on a different screen, probably. That's why. What screen am I on? I'm on the TikTok screen. There we go. So normally I would put a header title for the title of the screen that I'm on, so I knew exactly what screen I was on. So if I click that, it doesn't seem to be working. Let's pull up. In fact, you can't even see anything. So if I click my blue button, I can't see the blue button. It does appear to be going up. The counter isn't working though. I'm not entirely sure why. There's my reset. There's my count up. Do I need? Maybe I do need to put a PV. Tell you what, it's been a little while since I've done the counters. Let's take it out simulation mode. I'll put a value in for PV, and maybe I do need to put one in. So let's just call this preset value, preset val. Find is complete. Oh, fuck's sake. So when you come out of simulation mode, it goes into read only. Super annoying, but there we go. Preset val. Want to make that a word, and before we do anything, we'll need to give preset val a value. So I would use SM400, I'm going to say. Not always on. 402 possibly. Yeah, so SM402, Most PLCs have this. It's called a first scan bit. So the very first scan of that PLC, it will close that contact for one scan cycle, so you can execute like default settings and that sort of thing just on the first scan, and then you forget about it after that. A software tool for doing PID tuning? I don't, mate. No. It's normally I'd either leave it to the PLC or I'll manually do it with very low settings, working my way up slowly. What does the PLC do on LV switchgear system? Synchronizing of generators, synchronizing of hydro turbines. What else? Load control, so you can share between generators and that sort of thing. You automate the actual ACBs themselves or the MCCBs. You can do loads of stuff with PLCs on switchgear. What DCS does your plant use? So I don't work on a plant. I work for a manufacturing company who manufacture control panels for power generation and LV switchgear, like big switchboards and that sort of thing. Spooky, thank you for the follow. Also, closed circuit gas turbine or energy from waste. I'm not. Yeah, when I say power generation, I don't work at a power station. I manufacture for the power generation industry. Manny Strong, thank you for the follow, mate. Yeah, Ziegler tuning method. Is it not Zygos or something like that? There's a few different methods. There's actually like proper ways to do this sort of stuff using math and stuff like that. I've never really found any of it helpful. I tend to just do it based on my feelings and what I can see and the feedback I'm getting. How long have you been doing electrical engineering? Just over 13 years now. 2012 is when I first started. Ziegler works. Like I say, I have tried them. There's a couple. I think there's like 2 or 3 that I've tried and tried to get my head around, and none of them really help. Okay. I'm getting bogged down again. I'm gonna need to try and set this value. I want to just show you the analog working. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move K 10,000 into preset val. And what that's basically saying is we're going to put the value of 10,000 into the register preset val. And what that basically means is this preset val, which is the maximum count value, I'm basically never going to reach it. I don't even want it there, but I'm kind of being forced to put it there. So let's simulate that now. Are you office-based? Yeah, I'm office-based, mate. Yeah. I'm a design engineer, so I design the control panels and I design switchgear. Like switchboards and that sort of thing. What's your favourite part of electrical engineering? I love PLCs, HMIs, general controls, like relay-based, timer-based. I just love all that, yeah. That's my favourite part. Becca, thank you for following live. Chris T, thank you for following the live. You need to learn how to design. Yeah, I mean, it's just a progression. You just work your way up the ladder until you get to the point where you know controls and stuff and circuits, you've read enough circuits that you know how they should be laid out and that sort of thing, what components to use. You just build that knowledge over time. Favorite controller is a Mitsubishi, mate. Yeah, Mitsubishi. I'd say FX5 is my favorite, even over an IQR. But IQRs are great as well. Right, so we're now running. The PLC simulation is running. Get the HMI simulation running. Don't know why it always pops up over on the left, but there we go. So now we've got a count. So what it was is I did need the preset value, even though I've set it to 10,000. It's well out the way. We have got it now. DD, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. Do you use AutoCAD electrical? Do you use electrical AutoCAD or ePlan? Yeah, I use AutoCAD electrical. ePlan definitely seems like the way people are going though. And conversations I've had with like my boss and stuff, if we were to ever change, we'd probably go down the ePlan route. But for now, AutoCAD electrical is perfect. It does exactly what we want. I need to learn this. This is HMI programming, mate. It's obviously, it looks totally rubbish. It could be looking way smarter. Look at some of my other videos. I've done plenty with the HMI in the background and even in the foreground. They look a bit better, but you're kind of limited. The Mitsubishi HMIs aren't brilliant. Bayer and Schneider do a better HMI in my opinion. Do you do DCS? I don't, mate. No, I don't do DCS. But DCS is not too dissimilar from PLC programming. You just have a lot of remote I/O, but instead they're PLCs. What HMI software is this? This is GT Designer 3. I can never remember the name. I don't use it enough to know the name off by heart. How would you get a PLC to communicate with a VFD? It depends on the VFD. So I know on Mitsubishi they use CC Link. Some of them use EtherCAT. There's a million different protocols. That's the word I'm trying to get out of my head. Modbus as well. Ethernet. Yeah, you can use anything. Vigeo or EOTE? EOTE, mate. I've not used Vigeo. I do have Vigeo at work on my work laptop, but it's operator terminal that we use. Yeah. Although I just found out today, which it's kind of pissed me off a little bit. They've just upgraded to firmware level 4 or version 4 or whatever, and our license only does 3, which was never a thing. Yeah, 4.1, so I'm gonna need fucking new license if I want to use them again, which is a bit annoying. I've not used it. I sort of just expected, because the software updater was telling me 4.1 was out. I was like, okay, I'll just download it. So I downloaded it this morning, opened it up, and it's like, you're on a trial license. I was like, what? And it's because there's a license per version or something apparently, which I didn't know about. It's a bit annoying. It's not expensive, but it's annoying. Still not as good as Vigeo. Yeah, I never used Vigeo. It looks a bit dated to me now. I don't like the look of it, but it might work perfect, to be fair. Where are you located? UK, mate. Yeah, UK. Mate, you know your stuff. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. Yeah, so anyway, going back to this, I've got a button that's changing a bit in the PLC, which changes the image. I've got that same button operating a counter. And you can see how, like, if this was a, like, I don't know, if you made tins of beans or something, you could have a very fast counter just constantly ticking away to tell you how many beans you've made in that minute or whatever. You can then extract that data, put it in the cloud, make nice fancy dashboards and all that sort of thing. And your company could say, you know, oh, look, we made 10 million tins of beans this month. We've made a good profit. Do you use Seymour? Not sure what that is, mate. As in C programming, possibly. You work for Schneider. Oh, okay, mate. Yeah, hook me up. User, unload numbers, follow the live. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Is an engineering degree needed to get employed as a PLC programmer? Not in the UK. So in the UK, as far as I'm aware, there's no regulation or law that requires you to have a degree to program PLCs. But no one's going to hire you as a PLC programmer unless you've got experience and qualifications to back that up. So, not strictly necessary, but probably expected, I would say. Okay, so yellow button, that was doing my red lamp, and it reset my counter as well. I was half joking there, Russell. I was half joking. What's the easiest, best language to start learning? It depends on your background, I would say. If you come from an electrical background, I would say it's definitely got to be ladder logic. If you come from a computer sciencey type background where you might have programmed some applications and stuff, structured text. If you come from a digital electronics background, you work with digital electronics, AND gates, OR gates, and you know those sort of chips, then function block diagram, because function block diagram is very similar to, like, well, you can use Boolean algebra and stuff like that to work out what circuits you need and that sort of thing. Have you seen electricians move into that role? I have. Yeah, I have. Electricians need you need to move into a electrical engineering role first, or an electrical technician role. So if you were an electrician, I would say try and move into manufacturing, possibly, like as a maintenance engineer or something like that, you'll get more exposed to the engineering side as opposed to like a domestic or commercial, or maybe even an industrial electrician would. How easy is it to get a job in the UK as an automation engineer? As far as I'm aware, it's pretty easy. There is a shortage. Yeah, there is a shortage. Thank you to everyone who's liked the live tonight, who's shared the live, who's followed. Really, really appreciate it. If you do want to share the live, just holding your screen, it'll come up with a little box that'll say repost. I'd really appreciate it if you could do that. Arlo, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. And thank you for the likes too. What else can we show? Right, so let's quickly show one more thing, because I'm going to wrap up very soon. It was only going to be a short one tonight. Let's put a meter on the screen. Bar graph, possibly. Let's do a bar graph. Everyone knows what a bar graph is. You can see that, okay, yep. Let's bring that in. Okay, so I'm just going to tie that to the same counter value. Device going to be D0. Oh, not D00, D0. Data types. It'll probably be fine. It'll be fine as that. I don't want to sit clicking the button for 70 times, so let's drop that down to 20, 30, and 50. Those bars are those numbers, basically. So the number 50 is the upper limit. That's the top end of the scale. The number 30 is where the red stops. The number 20 is where the yellow stops. And then the rest is green. 0 is the bottom, obviously. But you can offset it. I could make that 10, but I won't. So there we go. Run that back again in simulation mode. Eric, thank you for the follow, mate. Really appreciate it. Okay, drag that back over. So we're going to the TikTok screen, which is just something I called it. And if I start clicking the blue button, you can see this readout here. You can see that, okay? 3. You can also see this red line on the gauge increasing. So that could be something like a tank level. So if you've got like a fuel tank or a silo of some kind, you could have a weight sensor or a level gauge, and that give you a readout. In this case, it's just off the button. It's actually off just the counter that I've got in the PLC, and each time I click it, it goes up. Press the yellow one, it should go back to 0. Yeah, so the HMI part, Cypex, thank you for sharing, mate. I really appreciate that. The HMI, the human machine interface, the interface is showing me that the count, or the level of my tank, or the level of my silo, or the number of tins of beans, whatever it is, it's telling me what that number is. And without a HMI, you're going to have absolutely no idea in the world what that number is, because a PLC doesn't really have a screen on it. I know the Siemens F7 1500s have a little screen, but I'm not entirely sure what you can show on them. Someone in the chat might have a better idea, those that work with Siemens a bit more. You might possibly be able to show a count on there, but again, you're quite limited. You're not going to be able to change timers on that little screen and stuff like that. Really appreciate all the likes. Thank you for that, guys. And the shares as well. Papalo, thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. So, yeah, we've got some... Again, like I keep saying, it's a really ugly screen. I would never do this in the real world. But it gives you the basic understanding of the different components of a HMI, how they work together with the PLC. So if we just go back to the PLC, in fact, I will take the simulation of the HMI off the screen so I can still press the buttons, and you can see how that's working in the PLC too. So every time I press this blue button, which I've called HMI button in the software, you can see that it's adding to this counter value, and you can see it's also energizing the HMI logo memory bit. Mainly diagnostics. Okay, mate. So yeah, you wouldn't be able to use that to display like a counter or something, or a timer value or something, I guess. So you really do need a HMI if you're going to do any sort of PLC project where there's a little bit more. There's a requirement for configuration. There's a requirement for visual data to be given to you. And not only that, HMIs are really good protocol converters as well. So a lot of HMIs come with 2 Ethernet ports. You can take one protocol into it, convert that to another protocol and send it out to something else. HMIs are great for stuff like that. What kind of secure access tool do you use? In terms of what, mate? When you say secure access, you mean like remote monitoring and that sort of thing, and remote VPNs and that sort? Trend logging. You can do trend logging on this. You might have seen that on a few of my videos. It looks pretty fancy if you set it up right. Anime Saturn, thank you for the follow, mate. Really appreciate it. And the other person who followed, who I can't read the name. Sorry, I don't read Arabic. I'm presuming that's Arabic. Secure remote access. For secure remote access, I have in the past used Bayer Cloud VPN. That's like it's like a little Ethernet switch, but it securely communicates to their servers. You log into their servers, it gives you a VPN. Recently, I've started looking at Teltonika. Teltonika have got some really quite powerful little routers for doing that sort of thing, and they're quite cheap as well. I'm impressed with the one that I've got on my desk at the minute at work. I've got a 956. I don't know if anyone's used them, but it's pretty good. What brand PLC would you recommend a small company uses, mostly relay control, to start using? I would say get a little logo, a Siemens logo. If you're just using relay control and stuff at the minute, a logo is the next step. It gives you the same functionality as what you had, just with relay control, but gives you intelligence. So if you need to change that program, you know, normally if you had an issue or you wanted to change how the control panel works using relays, it's wiring, it's time, it's effort. It might be on site, so you might need to go out to site to do it. If you've got a Siemens logo, you can do that in 5 minutes, just changing the program. All the inputs are wired to it, all the outputs are wired. Yeah, they're great. What industry are you in? I'm mostly in water. Power generation, so diesel generators, hydro turbines, solar inverters, wind turbines. Yeah, all sorts of different power generation sources, and then the switchgear to go with it. So basically what I do is I design control panels to automate those power supplies, get them synchronized together, get them load sharing, that sort of thing. Have you heard of Zona System? I haven't, mate. No, I haven't. Okay, so probably gonna end it there, guys. I think we just went over some basics there. Maybe for the next stream, I'll try and make a pretty screen. The thing is, I've got a brand new computer and I've not got all my files and stuff that you would have seen in my previous videos with the trend screens and the PID. I think it was Snarky Man, you were asking about PIDs, or maybe the engineer. I've got all that on files on my other computer. I just need the time to get them across onto this one, and then maybe I can show some of that, how I'll put them together for the videos and that sort of thing. But for now, these little ugly screens, but it's more the communication, the control behind it, how they work, how that push button affects this program and stuff like that. How we can put a display on the screen, not that one, this one. How we can make this display just from the timer value. That was my idea for the past hour, yeah. So I appreciate everyone showing up again tonight. Thank you again for all the likes, gifts, follows, shares, everything. It still surprises me even now. I think this is maybe my 7th stream that there is interest in this sort of thing in TikTok. It's mad, it blows my mind. But there's obviously a lot more people like me who have a passion and an interest for this sort of thing. So it's good to see. Don't know when I'll next stream. I'll say the weekend, but it might be before then. Before I go, in fact, if anyone's got Discord, search up the Automation Hub. I created a Discord. I'm still in the process of building it. In fact, I'll put it in the comment what it's called. And I'm planning to put on when I'm going to stream and stuff in there. It's just like the idea behind it is a little place where you can keep, ask me questions directly in there. Keep up when I'm streaming, when I'm going to post videos, when the videos are posted, that sort of thing. Search that up on Discord if you have a Discord. It's more of a gamery thing, but I think these days a lot of people use Discord. Yeah, get adding it, and if I do stream before the weekend, so at the minute I'm thinking Friday, but if I do stream before then, I'll maybe put it in there. Yeah, so that'll do for tonight, I think. Thank you again to everyone who showed up. Not entirely sure what we're going to do on the next stream. I think we'll probably just build on what we learnt tonight and what we went through. So, yeah, thank you again. I'll see you next time.